The Galactic Alliance vessel Horizon Seeker glided through space, its engines humming softly as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Captain Trill stood on the bridge, his amphibious form towering over the crew. His iridescent scales shimmered under the soft lights as he studied the holographic display floating before him. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the third planet," Science Officer Mela reported. Her antennae twitched with excitement, betraying her otherwise professional demeanor. "The pattern suggests artificial origin, but it doesn't match any civilization in our database." Trill's large eyes blinked slowly. "Interesting. Very interesting." He turned to his second-in-command. "Prepare a survey team. Full containment protocols. We don't know what we're dealing with yet." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. Within hours, a shuttle departed from the Horizon Seeker, carrying a team of 6 specialists from different species. Vask, the xenoanthropologist, pressed his face against the viewport as they entered the planet's atmosphere. The world below was beautiful. Oceans of deep blue surrounded landmasses, covered in green and brown vegetation. "Look there," said Vask, pointing as they descended through cloud cover. "Those patterns are too regular to be natural formations." The shuttle's pilot adjusted their course, flying lower. What had initially appeared as random clearings in the forest revealed themselves to be organized settlements. Buildings made of local stone and what looked like processed metals stood in concentric circles around larger central structures. "This is unexpected," muttered Vask. "Those structures appear to be of human design. But that's impossible. Alliance records show no human colonies in this sector." The pilot found a suitable landing spot in a clearing near the largest settlement. As the shuttle's engines powered down, the team performed final checks on their environmental suits and communication devices. "Remember," said team leader Zorn, "we observe first. No aggressive moves. Standard first contact protocols." They descended from the shuttle cautiously, scientific equipment in hand rather than weapons. Vask adjusted his breathing apparatus, the alien atmosphere not quite compatible with his respiratory system. The gravity was slightly stronger than they were used to, making their movements a bit more labored. They had taken only a few steps from their shuttle when movement at the edge of the clearing caught their attention. A group of bipedal figures emerged from the tree line, walking with purpose but showing no signs of aggression. "Humans," whispered Vask, his voice filled with academic excitement. "Actual humans, this far from Earth." The approaching group was orderly and well-equipped. They wore practical clothing that appeared to be locally made but with sophisticated design elements. Some carried tools, but none brandished weapons. At their lead walked a man of medium height with broad shoulders and an air of quiet authority. The alien team stopped, waiting as protocol dictated for the locals to initiate contact on their own territory. The lead human stepped forward, his face showing curiosity rather than fear. "Greetings, travelers," he said in clear, unaccented Standard Galactic, the common language of the Alliance. "I am Tahoe, Security Coordinator of New Guyandi Colony. We welcome you to our world." The alien team exchanged shocked glances. Not only were these unexpected humans speaking the galactic trade language, but they seemed entirely unsurprised by the arrival of non-human visitors. Zorn stepped forward. "Greetings, Tahoe of New Guyandi. I am Zorn, representing the Galactic Alliance. We did not expect to find humans in this system." Tahoe smiled slightly. "And yet here we are." He gestured to the people behind him. "Our ancestors' ship, the Stellar Pioneer, suffered a catastrophic drive failure 312 years ago. They made an emergency landing here and established our colony." He looked up at the sky. "We've been watching your approach for several days now. Our orbital sensors detected your ship when you entered the system." Mela's antennae straightened in surprise. "You have orbital sensors, and you recognized our ship type." "Of course," said a woman who stepped forward to stand beside Tahoe. She introduced herself as Gina, their technology specialist. "We may have been separated from Earth for centuries, But we didn't lose our knowledge. We've maintained and advanced our technology as best we could with available resources. Captain Trill, who had been listening to the exchange through the team's communications link, now spoke directly into Zorn's earpiece. Ask them how much they know about current galactic affairs. Zorn relayed the question. Taiho's expression turned more serious. Very little, unfortunately. Our colony ship's databases were damaged in the crash. We know the basics of galactic civilization as it existed 3 centuries ago, but nothing current. We've been isolated here, focusing on survival and adaptation. Yet you don't seem surprised to see aliens, observed Vask. Our history records showed that humanity had already made contact with several non-human species before our ship launched, explained Taho. We've always assumed more existed. We've been sending signals into space for generations, hoping someone would find us. His eyes showed a deep emotion. It appears someone finally has. Taho extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting. We have much to share with each other. Would your team like to come to our settlement? We've prepared for this day for generations. As the Alliance team followed the humans toward their colony, Vask turned to Mila and whispered, "A lost human colony that's not only survived but thrived for 3 centuries in isolation. The scientific community will never believe this." Taiho, overhearing, looked back with a mysterious smile. "That's not even the most interesting part of our story. You haven't seen what we've become yet." Botanist Peeler walked slowly along the edge of the terraced fields that stretched up the hillside. The blue-skinned alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he analyzed the soil samples he had collected. His readings made no sense. "Your agricultural systems are remarkable," Peeler said, turning to Jinwoo, the colony's agricultural director. "These crop configurations shouldn't be possible in this soil composition." Jinwoo was a tall man with weather-worn hands and keen eyes. He smiled, running his fingers through a plant with purple leaves and what looked like small golden fruits. "We adapt," Jinwoo said simply. "When the colony ship Sejong crashed, we lost most of our original supplies. The native soil couldn't support Earth crops, so we changed the crops instead." "Changed them? How?" asked Peeler, his scientific curiosity fully engaged. "Our first geneticists worked with what they had. They identified which Earth crop genes could be modified to thrive in local soil chemistry. After many failures, they succeeded." Jinwoo plucked one of the golden fruits and offered it to Peeler. "This started as wheat. Now it's something new. We call it sunbread. It grows in half the time and provides triple the nutrition." The Alliance team spread out across New Guyana over the next few days. They had expected to find perhaps a few thousand survivors struggling to maintain basic technology. Instead, they discovered a thriving civilization of nearly 1 million humans spread across several interconnected settlements. Science Officer Mela followed Engineer Hyun through an underground facility carved directly into bedrock. The temperature increased as they descended deeper into the planet. "Our power grid runs on geothermal energy," explained Hyun, a compact woman with quick movements and a quicker mind. She pointed to a complex system of pipes and turbines. "We tap the planet's core heat using materials from the ship's remains. Nearly limitless clean energy. This turbine design is more efficient than standard Alliance models," noted Mela, her antennae twitching in surprise. Hyun nodded. "We couldn't afford waste. When something broke, we had to make it better when rebuilding it." Each day brought new revelations for the Alliance scientists. In the medical center, they observed procedures using devices that combined salvaged ship technology with compounds derived from native plants. Dr. Minho demonstrated a treatment for nerve damage that Alliance medicine couldn't match. "This native fungus produces a compound that promotes neural regrowth," he explained, showing them a patient who had regained use of her hand after a serious accident. "We modified it to work with human physiology." Xenobiologist Tren was particularly impressed by the colony's waste management systems. "Your reclamation efficiency exceeds Alliance standards by 23%, she noted, examining the processing facility that turned waste into fertilizer, building materials, and clean water. The colony's underwater agriculture fascinated Peeler. Humans in specially designed suits tended to fields of plants growing in the shallow coastal waters. Marine farming was our solution to land scarcity, explained Dahi, the underwater farming specialist. These plants filter the water while providing food and raw materials. On the fifth day, Mela found herself in the colony's central archive with Doyen, the historian. Unlike many of the colonists who approached their alien visitors with open curiosity, Doyen carried himself with a more reserved demeanor. His office was filled with physical books, a rarity in the age of digital information, and holographic displays showing the colony's development over centuries. "I don't understand," confessed Mela as she reviewed the technological timeline. Isolated colonies typically regress technologically, not advance. Cut off from a larger civilization, knowledge is usually lost, not gained. Yet you've created technologies we don't even have. Doyen's expression grew serious. He moved to a secure terminal and placed his hand on the scanner. "Necessity forced innovation," he said as the screen lit up with restricted files. "When survival is the only option, humans become creative." He entered a complex code, and a hidden door slid open in the wall. "You haven't seen everything yet." He led Mela down a corridor that the Alliance team hadn't been shown before. "What I'm about to show you isn't shared with all our people, only those who need to know." They reached another security door, which opened to reveal a laboratory unlike anything Mela had seen in the colony so far. The equipment here was clearly more advanced than even the impressive technology they'd already observed. "This is where we keep our failures," Doyen said quietly, "and our successes that were too dangerous to implement widely." Preserved specimens lined the walls, plants with unusual structures, small preserved animals with strange adaptations, and most disturbing of all, what appeared to be human tissue samples showing unusual modifications. "What is this?" asked Mela, her scientific detachment battling with growing concern. "Our history is not one of steady progress," Doyen explained, his voice solemn. "It's a story of survival through crisis after crisis. When conventional solutions failed, we explored unconventional ones." He activated a holographic display showing images of early colonists suffering from what appeared to be radiation poisoning. 30 years after landing, we discovered that this planet's soil contains trace elements that are toxic to humans over long exposure. We had to adapt or die. He looked directly at Mela, his expression unreadable. Sometimes changing our environment wasn't enough. Sometimes we had to change ourselves. Mela's antennae went rigid with shock as she began to understand the full implications of what she was seeing. "Your alliance has laws against this kind of genetic modification, doesn't it?" Doyen asked, already knowing the answer. "Yes," Mela replied quietly. "Very strict ones." "We didn't have the luxury of such restrictions," said Doyen. "Not when extinction was the alternative." The Central Library of New Guyandi stood as a monument to human memory. Unlike the digital archives of the Alliance, the colonists had maintained both physical and electronic records. Captain Trill and his senior officers followed Sunmi, the colony's chief archivist, through tall shelves of bound books and artifacts. Sunmi was a small woman with careful movements and watchful eyes. Her hands moved with practiced precision as she activated the central holographic system. The lights dimmed automatically. "After your science officer's discovery in our restricted labs, we decided you should know our full history," she said, her voice calm but firm. "These are our extinction records." The hologram flickered to life, showing scenes from the colony's past. The images were sharp and clear despite their age. 50 years after landing, we faced the first crisis, Sunmi explained as the hologram showed people collapsing in streets, their skin covered in blue-green rashes. A bacterial bloom in the ocean poisoned our water supply. It happened suddenly, with no warning. We lost 40% of our population in just 3 weeks. The Alliance researchers watched in silence as the projection showed mass graves and hollow-eyed survivors, children crying beside dead parents, medical workers collapsing from exhaustion. We had no cure, continued Summi. Our remaining scientists discovered the bacteria produced a neurotoxin our bodies couldn't process. Those who survived had a natural resistance. The images shifted to show laboratories where scientists worked desperately with primitive equipment. We identified the genetic markers for resistance and enhanced them in survivors, she explained. Then we made sure all new children would carry these enhanced genes. Captain Trill's amphibian features remained composed, but his inner eyelids flickered, a sign of distress in his species. The second crisis came 80 years later. Summi continued as the hologram changed to show massive ground fractures and collapsing buildings. Massive tectonic shifts. We lost 3 settlements completely. The images were terrible. Families buried in rubble. Rescue workers pulling out more dead than living. The third crisis was a solar flare that destroyed our electronics, she said as the display showed a brilliant flash in the sky followed by darkness across the settlements. We lost most of our medical technology and had to rebuild from basic principles. Science Officer Mela stepped closer to the display, her antennae rigid with scientific focus despite the disturbing images. The fourth crisis was perhaps the worst, said Summi. The hologram now showed vast fields of crops covered in glowing purple spores. A crop-destroying fungus that emerged after the tectonic events released deep earth minerals. It didn't just destroy our food. It released spores toxic to human lungs. The images shifted to show makeshift hospitals filled with people struggling to breathe, their lungs failing as medical staff watched helplessly. By all statistical models, your colony should have collapsed, said Mila, reviewing the data with growing disbelief. No civilization survives 4 extinction-level events in 3 centuries. The combined mortality rate should have reduced your population below sustainable levels. Summi nodded. By conventional models, yes, we should not exist. She gestured toward a heavy door at the back of the library. Please follow me. The door required multiple security measures, Summi's handprint, retinal scan, and voice authentication. It opened with a soft hiss, revealing the climate-controlled vault. Inside were hundreds of preserved biological samples in clear containers. Tissue samples, organs, even complete preserved specimens of plants and small animals. Along one wall stood a row of what appeared to be stasis pods containing full human bodies. Our ancestors, explained Summi, noting the visitors' shocked expressions. Those who gave their bodies to science after death. Those who volunteered for experimental procedures. Those who sacrificed so others might live. She activated a terminal that displayed detailed genetic sequencing data. Each time we faced extinction, we adapted, she said, displaying genetic modification records. The complex charts showed how the colonists had gradually altered themselves to better survive on their harsh new home. This first modification allowed our lungs to filter the bacterial toxins, she explained, pointing to specific gene sequences. This one helped our bodies process the minerals released during the tectonic events. This modification improved our resistance to radiation from the solar flares. Vask the synanthropologist moved closer to examine the data, his breathing apparatus making soft clicking sounds as he processed what he was seeing. This level of genetic self-modification, he whispered. The Alliance has banned such practices for ethical reasons. The risks of unintended consequences, the potential for creating division between modified and unmodified populations. Ethics evolve when survival is at stake, replied Summi simply. We did what was necessary. She moved to one of the stasis pods and wiped frost from the small viewing window. Inside was a man who appeared to be sleeping. This was Hanjin, our chief geneticist during the third crisis. He tested all modifications on himself first. This one killed him. An attempt to enhance neural resistance to solar radiation. His failure taught us what approach would work. Captain Trill stepped forward, his iridescent scales catching the vault's blue light. Your people have suffered greatly, he said, his voice formal but touched with respect. We have endured, corrected Sumi. There is a difference. She led them to another terminal displaying human genome comparisons. This is a standard human genome from our original records, she explained, pointing to the left display. And this is our current baseline. The differences were immediately apparent even to non-specialists. Entire sections have been altered, some removed, others enhanced. We are still human, said Sumi, sensing their unasked question. But we are humans adapted to this world. We can process toxins that would kill our ancestors. We can withstand radiation levels that would be dangerous to Earth humans. We require less food and water. Our bones are denser to handle a higher gravity. You've created a new subspecies, said Mela, her scientific mind racing with implications. We saved our people, countered Sumi. The means were less important than the end. She turned to face the Alliance team directly, her expression both proud and challenging. Now you know our secret. The question is, what will your Alliance do with this knowledge? Psychologist Zeal sat quietly at the back of the classroom, her four-fingered hands taking notes on a thin tablet. Her species had evolved in the dark caves of a distant world, giving her large, sensitive eyes that missed nothing. She watched as human children, none older than 6 years, worked together on a tabletop model of an irrigation system. The children argued, tested, failed, and tried again with no sign of frustration. When a small dam collapsed, flooding their model village, they laughed and immediately began discussing improvements. Your children show remarkable problem-solving abilities, Zeal noted to teacher Minsu when the class ended. On my world, children this age would be learning basic concepts through repetition, not designing working systems. Minsu was a gentle-looking man with patient eyes. He nodded as he helped a small girl clean up spilled water. We foster creative thinking from infancy, he explained. Our survival depends on innovation. These children will face challenges we cannot predict. They must learn to think, not just remember. But they're so young to handle such complex problems, said Zeal. Minsu smiled. Age is less important than mindset. Watch this. He called over a boy of about 5. Junho, tell our visitor what happened when your team's dam broke. The child looked up at the alien visitor without fear. We built it wrong. The pressure was too much on one side. Now we know how to make it stronger. And how do you feel about that? Asked Zeal. Good, said Chunho with a bright smile. We learned something new. Next time, we'll do better. After the child returned to his friends, Minsu explained, we don't punish failure here. We celebrate learning from it. Across the colony, other Alliance specialists were making similar discoveries. Sociologist packs conducted interviews with colonists of all ages, building a profile of their social structure. Most societies develop hierarchies based on tradition, wealth, or military strength. Packs reported to Captain Trill during their evening briefing. Here, leadership positions change regularly based on who has the best skills for current challenges. When facing water shortages, hydrologists lead. During construction phases, engineers take charge. Such flexibility should create instability, noted Trill. That's what makes them so fascinating, replied Pax. Their flexibility creates stability. The Alliance team was invited to a community gathering in the main square that evening. Hundreds of colonists assembled, bringing food and music. Despite the recent revelations about genetic modifications, the mood was festive rather than tense. Elder Juu, a woman with silver hair and clear eyes, welcomed the visitors. When Captain Trill asked about their remarkable adaptability, she addressed the gathering. We call it the adaptation doctrine, she explained, her voice carrying across the square. Each crisis forced us to discard what didn't work and evolve what did. We created a society that expects and prepares for disaster rather than hoping to avoid it. A young boy raised his hand. Tell them about the first rule, Elder. Juu smiled. The first rule of New Gyeonggi, change or die. The second rule, help others change. The third rule, today's solution is tomorrow's problem. Isn't that last one rather pessimistic? Asked Science Officer Mela. Realistic, corrected Juwu. Solutions create new challenges. If you solve water scarcity, population grows, creating food scarcity. If you solve food scarcity, waste increases. Each solution brings new problems to solve. We teach our people to expect this cycle, not fear it. As the evening progressed, colonists and aliens shared food and stories. Captain Trill observed the humans closely. Even the children approached the alien visitors without hesitation, asking questions about their biology and homeworlds. Your people show no fear of us. Despite our alien appearance, Trill noted to Young-ho, the colony's current leader, as they shared a meal. Young-ho was younger than Trill expected for a leader, perhaps 40 by human standards. He smiled at the captain's observation. We've learned that difference is strength, he explained. Our greatest advances came from combining disparate ideas. Your differences make you valuable potential allies, not threats. He gestured to the crowd where humans and aliens were now intermingling freely. Look there, your botanist is teaching our children about plants from other worlds. Your engineer is discussing drive technology with our technicians. Knowledge flows both ways. The Alliance researchers documented these interactions with growing fascination. The philosophical approaches of New Guyandi contradicted conventional galactic wisdom. Where most species sought stability and safety, these humans embraced uncertainty rather than fearing it. They viewed failure as educational rather than final and prioritized adaptability over consistency. In our earliest days, explained Ninji, a historian, to a group of fascinated Alliance scientists, our ancestors tried to recreate Earth here. They nearly died out. Only when they embraced this world on its own terms did they begin to thrive. Psychologist Zeal spent the evening observing family groups, noting how adults encourage children to approach the aliens. Aren't you concerned about exposing your children to unknown influences? She asked one parent. The woman looked surprised. How else will they learn to navigate a complex universe? Sheltering them would be cruelty, not protection. Later that night, as the Alliance team prepared their daily reports, Zeal shared her conclusions with Captain Trill. Their greatest adaptation isn't genetic, she said. It's psychological. They fundamentally changed how they think about challenges. Where most species see problems as threats to stability, they see them as opportunities for growth. Trill considered this. Such thinking would be destabilizing on many worlds. Yes, agreed Zeal. But it might also be exactly what the Alliance needs. We've grown too comfortable, too resistant to change. These humans could teach us something important. If the Council allows them to join galactic society, noted Trill, their genetic modifications alone will cause significant debate. They'll adapt to whatever decision is made, said Zeal with newfound respect. That's what they do. The next morning, Zeal returned to the school. This time, Teacher Minsu had prepared a special lesson. The children were building models of the alien visitors, learning about their biology and cultures. We want them to understand your people, not curiosities, explained Minsu. Tomorrow's lesson will be about your homeworlds. You're preparing them to join the wider galaxy, realized Zeal. Of course, replied Minsu. Our next great adaptation has already begun. Retrice F. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council shimmered with light reflected from the crystal dome above. 200 representatives from across the galaxy sat in rising tiers, their varied forms creating a living mosaic of galactic diversity. Captain Trill stood at the center platform, his amphibious form straight and formal. Honorable representatives, Trill began. I present our findings regarding the human colony of New Guyandi. The holographic display behind him showed images of the colony, its fields, cities, and people. The counselors watched with growing unease as Trill detailed the colony's history of survival through multiple extinction events. These humans have mastered self-directed evolution, stated Counselor Xarn when Trill finished. The insectoid being's exoskeleton clicked nervously as he rose from his seat. If they share this knowledge with the wider human civilization, It could destabilize established power structures. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The representative from Tellan Prime, a gas-based life form contained in a hovering mechanical shell, glowed bright orange with concern. Their resilience quotient exceeds any known species, she added. The military implications are concerning. Humans are already expanding rapidly. With these adaptations, they could become unstoppable. Captain Trill remained calm. I understand these concerns. However, I must emphasize that the new Guyongi colonists developed these abilities for survival, not conquest. Their philosophy values adaptation and cooperation above all. So they claim, rumbled the Voshian delegate, his stone-like skin grinding as he shifted. But intentions change. Power corrupts. The human representative, Ambassador Chen, had remained silent until now. She stood, her simple blue uniform stark against the elaborate dress of other species. My fellow counselors, she said, I remind you that Earth knows nothing of this colony. These are lost children of humanity, not some secret weapon we developed. They deserve the chance to rejoin galactic society. And what guarantee can you offer that their genetic modification technology won't spread? Demanded Tarn. Ambassador Chen spread her hands. None. Knowledge, once discovered, cannot be contained. But I propose we view this as an opportunity, not a threat. The new Guyongi colonists have solved problems many worlds still face. Meanwhile, aboard the Horizon Seeker in orbit around New Guyongi, preparations continued for departure. A delegation of 10 colonists had been selected to travel to the Alliance capital while the Council deliberated. Among them was Hyaron, a young scientist specializing in genetics. Hyaron stood at the observation window, studying star charts that showed Earth and the major human settlements across known space. Science Officer Mela found her there, antennae twitching with curiosity. 300 years, Hyaron said wonderingly, not looking up from the charts. Our ancestors believed they would die alone on a hostile world. Now we can rejoin our species. Her fingers traced the distance between New Guyongi and Earth, thousands of light years separating the lost colony from its ancestral home. Your people may find the wider galaxy less welcoming than you hope, warned Mela gently. Your adaptations and philosophy challenge many established norms. Some fear what you represent. Hyaron turned to face the alien scientist. Unlike most humans, her eyes had a slight luminescence, one of many subtle adaptations. We survived 4 extinction events, she replied, her expression remaining serene. We can handle politics. Mela's antennae twitched with what might have been amusement. I believe you can. In the council chamber, the debate continued for hours. Some representatives argued for quarantining the colony. Others suggested extracting their scientific knowledge, but restricting their movement. A few voices called for their complete integration into galactic society. Ambassador Chen again took the floor. These people are not a disease to be contained or a resource to be mined. They are sentient beings who have earned their place among us through suffering and ingenuity. Fine words, replied Councillor Xarn. But what of the practical concerns? Their genetic modifications violate numerous alliance treaties. Treaties made without considering situations like New Guyongi, countered Chen. Perhaps it is our laws that need adaptation, not these humans. The final vote was close. By a narrow margin, the Council approved provisional contact. The new Guyongi delegation would be allowed to visit Alliance worlds under observation. Full integration would depend on further evaluation. As the Horizon Seeker prepared to depart with the colonial delegation, Captain Trill recorded his final log entry in his private quarters. Contact with New Guyongi has fundamentally altered our understanding of human potential, he dictated. These colonists have demonstrated that isolation and hardship need not lead to regression, but can inspire unprecedented advancement. What they will contribute to galactic civilization, or how they might disrupt it, remains to be seen. One thing is certain. The galaxy will never be the same. Trill paused, remembering the faces of the colonists he'd met. Their determination, their hope. Personal addendum, he continued more softly. I believe we have more to learn from them than they from us. End log. On the observation deck, Yum-Ho and Tai-Ho, two of the delegation leaders, watched as their planet gradually diminished to a blue dot against the blackness of space. For the first time in their lives, they were leaving the only home they had ever known. Our ancestors crashed here by accident, Yum-Ho said, his voice quiet with emotion. But they gave us the greatest gift possible, the necessity to become more than we were. Now we bring that gift to the stars. Tai-Ho nodded, placing a hand on his friend's shoulder. They'll fear us at first. All new things are feared. Then we'll adapt to their fear, replied Yum-Ho. It's what we do. The Horizon Seeker's engines hummed as it accelerated to faster than light speed. The blue dot vanished, replaced by streaking stars. Ahead lay uncertainty, challenge, and possibility. Exactly the conditions in which the people of New Guyana had always thrived. On Earth and other human worlds, news of the lost colony had not yet arrived. When it did, humanity would face questions about its own future. Would they embrace their adapted cousins? Would they seek similar modifications? The ripples of New Guyana's discovery would spread for generations. But that was a problem for tomorrow. Today, 10 humans from a world that should not exist traveled toward a future they had been preparing for across 3 centuries of struggle and triumph. The journey had just begun.